Heathcliff is a central character in Wuthering Heights, the only novel by English author Emily Brontë, first published in 1847. The book is a landmark of Victorian literature and Gothic fiction, noted for its complex narrative structure and intense emotional power. Heathcliff is an orphan of unknown origin, adopted by the Earnshaw family. He grows into a figure defined by passionate love, deep resentment, and moral ambiguity, ultimately becoming both victim and villain in the novel's tragic cycle. One character story. Heathcliff's story is a profound arc from outcast to avenger, and finally, to a spectre seeking dissolution. His narrative begins mysteriously. Mr. Earnshaw finds him starving on the streets of Liverpool and brings him home out of charity. Mr. Earnshaw raises him alongside his own children, Hindley and Catherine. From the beginning, Heathcliff is treated as an outsider, especially by Hindley, whose jealousy turns to cruelty after their father's death. Hindley reduces Heathcliff to the status of a servant, denying him education and social mobility, which profoundly shapes Heathcliff's sense of injustice. Despite this mistreatment, Heathcliff forms an intense bond with Catherine Earnshaw. Their relationship is rooted in shared rebellion, emotional intimacy, and a sense of belonging to the wild moorland. Catherine views Heathcliff as her spiritual equal, famously aligning her identity with his. However, social pressures and class constraints intervene. Catherine chooses to marry Edgar Linton for comfort and status, believing she can still retain Heathcliff's emotional attachment. This decision devastates Heathcliff, who soon after overhears Catherine's partial confession of love and then disappears from Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff returns years later, transformed, wealthy, controlled, and vengeful. The novel never explains the source of his fortune, which heightens his mysterious, almost supernatural aura. His sole purpose becomes revenge against those he believes wronged him, Hindley, Edgar, and the next generation associated with them. He exploits Hindley's gambling addiction to gain control of Wuthering Heights and later marries Isabella Linton, not out of love but to hurt Edgar and secure power. After Catherine's death, Heathcliff's grief intensifies into obsession. He longs for her presence beyond death, even wishing for her ghost to haunt him. His cruelty extends to the younger generation, including Hareton Earnshaw and Cathy Linton, whom he uses as instruments of revenge. Yet as the novel progresses, Heathcliff's rage gradually loses its force. Haunted by Catherine's memory, he withdraws from active cruelty and ultimately dies, seemingly reunited with Catherine in death. His story thus moves from victimhood to tyranny and finally to tragic dissolution. Role in the narrative. Heathcliff is the primary engine and architect of the novel's plot. He is not merely a participant but the active force that drives the narrative from a story of childhood passion into a sprawling saga of vengeance. His disappearance and return serve as the hinge between the two halves of the novel. The first half builds to his devastating loss. The consequences of his bitter return dominate the second half. Every significant event in the latter half of the book, Isabella's elopement, the degradation of Hareton, the captivity of young Cathy, the marriage to Linton, is a direct result of his machinations. Furthermore, Heathcliff is the crucial link between the two families, the Earnshaws and the Lintons, and the two generations. As an outsider adopted into one family and married into the other, he entangles their fates irrevocably through his blood and schemes. He is the dark thread weaving through the tapestry of both households, ensuring their mutual destruction. Through his son, Linton, and his manipulation of Cathy Linton and Hareton Earnshaw, he directly shapes the second generation's lives, making the novel's conclusion a resolution of his legacy. Most importantly, Heathcliff personifies the novel's central conflict, the clash between natural, wild passion and civilized, oppressive order. He is the narrative's punishing force, a scourge who holds a mirror up to the cruelty and exclusion inherent in the society that created him. The story's structure, framed by Lockwood's encounters with his ghost, positions Heathcliff as the enduring, haunting spirit of the place itself, the eternal, disruptive principle of Wuthering Heights. Symbolic significance. Heathcliff is a richly complex symbol. Primarily, he represents the raw, untamed force of nature, akin to the moor's punishing winds and dark peat. He is consistently described in elemental terms, His eyes are likened to a black winter, his love is a fire, and his presence is a storm. He symbolizes the primal, amoral energy that exists outside and in opposition to human society and its conventions. He is also a potent symbol of social disruption and the vengeful return of the oppressed. As a dark-skinned orphan of unknown origins, he embodies everything the rigid class and racial hierarchies of 19th-century England fear and exclude. His systematic destruction of the Earnshaws and Lintons can be read as a brutal Gothic allegory of the vengeance of the marginalized, a dark warning that those dehumanized may return to destroy the system that created them. Finally, Heathcliff symbolizes the destructive potential of transcendent love. His bond with Catherine is so absolute that it negates all other moral and social considerations. When this love is betrayed, it does not vanish. It transmutes into an equally absolute force of hatred and vengeance. He embodies the idea that love and hate are two sides of the same passionate coin, and that an obsession with a metaphysical union can obliterate one's own humanity and that of others. Emily Brontë, through Heathcliff, explores the limits of human passion and the idea of a self-created identity. In a society obsessed with lineage and status, Heathcliff is a tabula rasa with no past, who forges his identity entirely through his relationship with Catherine and his will to power. Brontë may have been motivated to create a character who defies moral categorization, neither a simple villain nor a romantic hero, but a phenomenon. To Victorian readers, Heathcliff was a monstrous, shocking figure, devil, an incarnate goblin, who violated every standard of Christian morality and gentlemanly conduct. Modern readers, however, often view him through a more complex, psychological, and even sympathetic lens. While his brutality is never excused, it is contextualized as the product of severe childhood trauma, systemic abuse, and profound heartbreak. He is seen as a tragic figure, a victim of social prejudice whose immense capacity for love is tragically perverted. For conclusion, Heathcliff is introduced as a marginalized outsider whose identity is shaped by exclusion and emotional intensity. His life story shows how love, when denied social legitimacy, can turn into obsession and vengeance. Symbolically, he embodies the conflict between nature and civilization, and between passion and restraint. Ultimately, Heathcliff's role in Wuthering Heights is to expose the destructive and transformative power of love when it collides with social constraints. His legacy within the novel is one of suffering, intensity, and unresolved humanity, making him one of the most compelling characters in English literature.